Woke up, spot a young black woman sitting in her car outside a diner. She's on her phone, calm, minding her own business. But to them, she doesn't belong. They flash their lights. License and registration, one barks. She hands it over politely. Where you headed? The other sneers. Just grabbing dinner, she replies softly. They circle her car, whispering. Probably stolen, one mutters. The other smirks. Let's teach her a little respect. They tell her to step out. She does, slowly, hands visible, heart pounding but face steady. One cop shoves her door closed. The other grabs her wrist. You think you can talk back? That's when she speaks, voice firm this time. Actually, I can. She reaches into her jacket, pulls out a leather badge case, flips it open, gold gleaming under the flashing red and blue lights. Special Agent Maya Brooks, FBI Internal Affairs. The street goes silent. Their grip loosens instantly. One stammers, We didn't know. She steps closer, eyes locked on theirs. You should have treated me with respect before you knew. A squad car pulls up behind her. Federal backup. The two officers exchange terrified glances as the agents step out. She looks at them one last time and says, Every action you took tonight is on camera. And trust me, I'll make sure it's reviewed. Their arrogance fades into pure fear as they realize the woman they tried to humiliate now holds their careers and their freedom in her hands. It was a humid Friday evening in the small town of Briarwood, just outside Atlanta, the kind of town where everyone seemed to know everyone and strangers were noticed instantly. The sun had barely dipped behind the pine trees when Officer Daniels and his partner, Officer Burke, began their usual patrol. They were seasoned local cops, or at least that's how they saw themselves. Daniels was the talkative one, always boasting about how he could read people. Burke was quieter, meaner. A man who found amusement in pushing buttons just to watch others squirm. They'd been partners for nearly 5 years, and in that time, they'd formed an unspoken rule. If someone looked out of place, they'd make sure to check them out. It wasn't written policy. It was prejudice, dressed in a badge and uniform. That evening, their conversation drifted lazily between football scores and weekend plans until Daniels spotted a sleek black sedan parked outside a small-town diner. Inside, a young black woman sat alone in the driver's seat, scrolling through her phone, a coffee cup beside her. Daniels slowed the cruiser. What's she doing here? Burke leaned forward, squinting. Doesn't look familiar. Probably lost. Or casing the place, Daniels added with a smirk. You know how it is. They parked across the street, watching. Minutes passed. The woman didn't move, just sat calmly, occasionally glancing at her watch. To the officers, that alone was suspicious. Burke reached for the radio. Dispatch, we're checking on a suspicious vehicle at Miller's Diner. Out of state plates. The dispatcher's voice crackled back. Copy that. Unit 12. Daniels adjusted his belt, stepping out of the cruiser. Let's go say hello. As they approached, their boots crunched against the gravel. The woman looked up from her phone, her expression neutral. She rolled her window halfway down. Evening, officers. Something wrong? She asked politely. Daniels leaned forward, shining his flashlight into her car, though the sun hadn't fully set. License and registration. Sure, she said, reaching calmly into her glove box. May I ask what this is about? Just making sure everything's in order, Burke replied, circling the car. This area's had break-ins lately. She raised an eyebrow but said nothing, handing over her documents. Daniels looked them over, his eyes narrowing. Maya Brooks, huh? From D.C.? What brings you all the way down here? Visiting family, she said evenly. My aunt lives nearby. Burke knocked on the trunk. Mind if we take a look around? Her jaw tightened slightly. Unless you have a warrant, yes. I mind. That word, no, was enough to light a fuse. Daniels stepped closer, his voice low but sharp. You got something to hide? No, Maya said calmly, but I know my rights. Daniels smirked. Oh, she knows her rights, huh? He looked at Burke. You hear that? Burke grinned. I heard. The woman stayed still, her gaze locked on Daniels. He felt challenged, and he didn't like that. Step out of the vehicle, he ordered. Am I being detained? She asked. Now you are, he snapped. She sighed quietly, unbuckled her seatbelt, and stepped out. She was composed, even as they towered over her. Her voice remained steady, professional, not defensive. Daniels motioned toward her car. Pop the trunk. No. Burke took a step closer, his tone darkening. Lady, you don't want to make this harder than it has to be. I'm not, she replied. But I'd appreciate it if you treated me with respect. Daniels laughed. Respect has to be earned. At that, something shifted in her eyes. Just a flicker, but enough. She looked from one officer to the other, her patience thinning. Gentlemen, she said slowly, I've been patient, but I think it's time you take a closer look at who you're talking to. Before they could respond, she reached into her jacket pocket, slow, deliberate, and pulled out a small black leather case. She flipped it open, revealing a gold badge that gleamed in the fading light. Both officers froze. Special Agent Maya Brooks, she said calmly. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Burke blinked. You what? Daniels stammered. You're FBI? She nodded, her expression unflinching. Internal Affairs Division. And I'd suggest you step back. Silence. The same men who had just tried to humiliate her now looked pale and panicked. Daniels immediately lowered his hand from his holster. Burke straightened his posture like a soldier caught in the wrong. You two just profiled a federal agent, she said, her tone turning icy. And every second of this stop is being recorded. Daniels' voice cracked. We didn't know. That's the problem, she interrupted. You shouldn't need to know someone's title to treat them like a human being. Her words cut through the air like a blade. Neither officer spoke. In the distance, another set of headlights appeared, a black SUV pulling up quietly behind the cruiser. Two men in suits stepped out, walking toward them. Agent Brooks, one of them greeted her. We've got your signal. Daniels and Burke exchanged terrified looks. Maya nodded slightly. These two officers decided to detain me without probable cause. I'll be filing a formal report. Her backup agents took notes, snapping photos of the scene. The cops looked trapped, two predators suddenly realizing they'd been caught in their own snare. As she turned to leave, Maya paused beside Daniels. Next time, she said quietly, ask questions before you assume answers. She slid into her car, calm as ever, and drove off into the night, leaving behind two shaken officers and the unmistakable weight of accountability closing in. Little did they know, by morning, their names would be on a Federal Review Board's desk, because the woman they tried to intimidate wasn't just another face in the dark. She was the storm they never saw coming. The next morning, the Briarwood Police Department was quieter than usual. Word spread fast. Two officers had pulled over an FBI agent the night before. Some whispered disbelief, others smirked nervously. But when Captain Ruiz called Daniels and Burke into his office, there was no laughter left. Captain Ruiz, a man known for his strict discipline, sat behind his desk, a folder in front of him. His jaw was tight, eyes unreadable. You two know why you're here? Daniels swallowed. Sir, we didn't know she was... Ruiz raised a hand, cutting him off. That's exactly the problem. He tapped the folder. Do you have any idea who Agent Brooks is? Burke shifted in his seat. We do now, Ruiz leaned forward. She's with Internal Affairs, federal level. That means she investigates law enforcement misconduct. And as of this morning, gentlemen, you are both under review. The words landed like a hammer. Daniel's stomach twisted. Burke clenched his fists. This is ridiculous, Daniels muttered. We didn't do anything wrong. Ruiz's tone turned cold. You profiled an off-duty federal agent, detained her without cause, and attempted an illegal search. You think that's nothing? Neither answered. Ruiz continued. Her report's already been filed. Washington's requesting your body cam footage, and if what she wrote is true, you better hope your footage tells a different story. Outside the office, the halls buzzed with murmurs. By lunchtime, everyone knew. Daniels avoided eye contact. Burke's temper flared at the smallest glance. Man, this is crap, Burke hissed as they sat in the break room. We didn't hurt her. We didn't... She set us up, Daniels interrupted, though even he didn't believe it. Probably waiting for us to slip up. Burke slammed his fist against the table. You think she planned it? Daniels rubbed his temples. Doesn't matter. It's her word against ours, he paused. Unless... He stopped. Burke looked up. Unless what? Daniels hesitated. Unless we can make it look like she provoked us. Burke frowned. You're crazy. She's FBI. They record everything. Daniels leaned closer. So do we. Maybe there's something in the footage we can use. Something that makes her look defensive or confrontational. Something that flips the story. That afternoon, they sneaked into the evidence room, pulling up their dash and body cam footage. As the video played, the silence grew heavier. Every frame confirmed what they already knew. She had been calm, respectful, firm, but not rude. The footage didn't help them. It condemned them. Daniels shut off the monitor, his face pale. We're done. Burke slumped in the chair. So that's it? We lose everything? Daniels didn't answer. His mind raced. Maybe we apologize. Make it look sincere. Damage control. But it was already too late. That evening, as they prepared to leave the station, 2 black SUVs pulled into the lot. Men and women in suits stepped out, badges visible, faces serious. One of them was Maya Brooks. Every conversation in the building died instantly. Captain Ruiz came out to meet them, shaking Maya's hand. Agent Brooks, we've been expecting you. I'm here to collect evidence and conduct interviews, she said. Internal Affairs wants this resolved quickly. Ruiz nodded grimly. My officers will cooperate fully. When she walked past Daniels and Burke, neither dared to speak. She didn't even look at them. And somehow, that silence cut deeper than any words. Over the next few hours, the station transformed into an investigation zone. Cameras, laptops, and federal equipment filled the briefing room. Officers whispered as agents interviewed witnesses and reviewed tapes. Daniels and Burke sat waiting, their nerves fraying by the minute. When their names were finally called, they stepped into a small conference room. Maya sat across from them, her demeanor calm and professional, the same as the night before. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Please state your names for the record, one of the federal investigators said. They complied. Maya opened a file in front of her. You 2 initiated a stop at 8:43 p.m. outside Miller's Diner. No traffic violation was observed. Correct? Daniels cleared his throat. We thought the vehicle looked suspicious. Suspicious, Maya repeated slowly. Because... Burke jumped in. She was sitting there for a while. We wanted to make sure everything was okay. Maya looked up, meeting his eyes. You wanted to make sure everything was okay? By demanding my license, circling my car, and ordering me out without cause? Burke opened his mouth, but no sound came out. She leaned forward slightly. I've seen your body cam footage, officers. You were smirking while you questioned me. You mocked me when I invoked my rights. That's not standard procedure. That's harassment. Daniels tried to defend himself. We didn't know who you were, her voice sharpened. That's exactly the point. You shouldn't have to know who I am to treat me with respect. The room went still. One of the investigators took notes. Another read out portions of the incident report. Every detail matched. Every lie they could have told crumbled under video evidence. By the end of the interview, the truth was undeniable. They'd profiled her, violated multiple procedures, and embarrassed the department. When they were dismissed, both men walked out silently. The eyes of their colleagues followed them, some filled with pity, others with disgust. Outside, the sun had set again, just like the night before. But this time, the flashing lights weren't from their patrol car. They were from the federal convoy parked outside, collecting the final pieces of evidence. Maya stood near her SUV, speaking with Captain Ruiz. When she noticed Daniels lingering by the door, she approached him. Officer Daniels, she said, her tone neutral. He turned slowly. Yes, ma'am? For what it's worth, she said. I didn't want it to come to this. But actions have consequences, especially when you wear a badge. He nodded weakly, unable to meet her gaze. Burke muttered something under his breath. A curse, a complaint. But Maya didn't react. She simply turned away, sliding her hands into her coat pockets. As she walked toward her car, the agents followed. The engines started one by one, pulling out of the lot in perfect formation. Daniels watched until the taillights disappeared down the road. The silence that followed was deafening. That night, He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her badge flash, gold against the red-blue lights. Every word she spoke replayed in his mind. You shouldn't need to know someone's title to treat them like a human being. The next morning, a letter from Internal Affairs arrived on his desk. Suspension pending investigation. Same for Burke. No patrol, no badge. No control. Just the weight of their own choices, and the realization that the woman they thought was powerless had been the most powerful person they'd ever meet. 2 weeks later, the hearing room inside the Briarwood courthouse was packed. The walls buzzed with tension, local media outside, department staff inside, and the two men who started it all sitting side by side at the defense table, Officer Daniels and Officer Burke. They looked different now. The confidence was gone. Their uniforms were pressed, but their hands trembled slightly as they waited. In front of them sat the review board, 3 senior federal officials, including one familiar face, Agent Maya Brooks. The captain, Ruiz, sat in the audience, silent but watchful. He'd told them to cooperate and own your mistakes. But as the hearing began, it was clear that neither officer was ready to face what was coming. The lead investigator stood first. This hearing concerns the unlawful detainment, harassment, and racial profiling of a federal agent, Special Agent Maya Brooks, by Officers Mark Daniels and Tom Burke of the Briarwood Police Department. Burke shifted uncomfortably. Daniels clenched his jaw. The investigator continued, reading from a report. On the evening of September 14th, both officers initiated a traffic stop with no probable cause. Body cam footage confirms verbal intimidation, mocking language, and an attempt to unlawfully search the vehicle. The subject identified herself as a federal agent, at which point both officers attempted to de-escalate, but the incident had already violated multiple state and federal conduct codes. A quiet murmur rippled through the room. Then the investigator looked toward Maya. Agent Brooks, you may speak. Maya stood, wearing a black suit and a quiet expression that commanded respect. Her voice was steady, each word deliberate. Thank you, sir.
I've been in law enforcement for 12 years.
I've worked undercover, led investigations, and trained officers from different states. But that night, she paused, taking a breath. That night I wasn't an agent. I was just a black woman in a car, and I was treated like a suspect before I even spoke. The room fell silent. She looked directly at Daniels and Burke. I watched you both judge me in less than 10 seconds. You assumed I didn't belong, you assumed I was dangerous, and you assumed your badges gave you the right to humiliate me. You didn't ask questions, you made up answers. Daniels looked down at the table. Burke fidgeted with his tie. Maya continued, You see, this job, this uniform, it's supposed to mean something. It's supposed to protect people, not threaten them. But when you forget that, when you use it to feed your ego or your bias, you destroy the very trust you swore to uphold. Her voice stayed calm, but her words struck like thunder. And the saddest part, she added softly, is that I wasn't the first. There are hundreds of people who get treated the same way, who don't have a badge to protect them, who don't get a hearing like this. The only difference is this time you picked the wrong woman. The room was dead still. Even the air felt heavy. She nodded to the panel and took her seat. The lead investigator turned to the officers. Officers Daniels and Burke, do you have anything to say before the board reaches its decision? For a moment, no one spoke. Then Daniels slowly rose to his feet. His voice, when it came, was low and shaky. I won't make excuses. We thought we were doing our job, but looking back, I see how wrong we were. We judged her. We overstepped. And we made the kind of mistake you can't take back. He glanced toward Maya. I'm sorry. Not because you were FBI, but because no one deserves to be treated that way. Maya gave a small nod. Acknowledgement, not forgiveness. Then Burke stood, his tone colder. We were following instinct, he said. We didn't know who she was, and the investigator cut him off. Your instincts were prejudice, Officer Burke. That's the issue. Burke's jaw tightened. He sank back into his seat. After a brief recess, the board returned with its verdict. The head official stood, reading the decision with crisp authority. Based on the evidence, The testimonies and the conduct violations presented. The board finds both officers guilty of misconduct, unlawful detainment, and racial profiling. Effective immediately, Officer Mark Daniels is terminated from duty with the Briarwood Police Department. Officer Tom Burke is stripped of his badge and permanently barred from future law enforcement service. A stunned silence followed. Burke slammed his fist against the table, but the sound was hollow, a desperate echo of a man who had lost everything. Daniels just sat frozen, staring blankly at the floor. The hearing adjourned. Maya gathered her files calmly, thanked the panel, and turned to leave. As she passed the two men, she stopped for just a moment. "You had power," she said quietly, "and you chose to use it the wrong way. Now you know how it feels to lose it." She didn't wait for an answer. Her heels clicked against the marble floor as she walked out of the room, sunlight pouring in from the courthouse doors ahead. Outside, the cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Maya paused briefly before speaking into one of the microphones. "Justice isn't about revenge," she said. "It's about accountability. If you wear a badge, you carry responsibility, not superiority. Every person deserves respect, no matter who they are or where they come from." Her words made the evening news, shared across the country by morning. Back in Briarwood, the story hit like a storm. Citizens flooded the station with calls, some angry, some grateful. The department faced scrutiny, and new training programs were announced within weeks. For the first time in years, real change was being discussed. As for Maya, she returned to Washington quietly, her work far from over. In her office, she pinned a small photo on her corkboard, the diner, the night sky, and a reminder written in her own handwriting: "Never forget why you started." Meanwhile, Daniels packed his things into a box. His badge, his radio, his nameplate, all gone. But something in him had shifted. For the first time, he understood what it meant to see fear in someone's eyes, not as an officer, but as a man. Burke, however, refused reflection. He blamed the system, the politics, the world, anything but himself. But deep down, even he knew that night would haunt him forever, because in just a few minutes of arrogance, they'd lost their careers, their reputation, and the illusion of power that once made them feel untouchable. And Maya Brooks, the girl they thought they could scare, walked away stronger. Her silence louder than their excuses. Justice had been served. But more than that, a message had been delivered. You never know who you're standing against. So treat everyone with the respect you'd want for yourself.